We're here to empower high-income earners to gain back control of your time through financial independence and stop trading your time for money and start letting your money work harder for you.
And hey, if you want to meet other high-income earners on their FIRE journey, join our High Income Earners FIRE Facebook group. Every month, we'll have guest speakers and we'll share about what our team is currently working on and allow you to share what you are working on with other high-income earners. Welcome back, everyone, to the High Income Earners FIRE podcast. I'm your host, Eileen Prack, and I'm joined here by my co-host, Cody Ye. And we are here with our special guest, Harry Nima Zegarra. And he is actually a pulmonary and critical care medicine physician, a real estate investor, entrepreneur, co-founder, and manager of Nima Equity LLC, where they focus on commercial real estate syndications. And he really helps to educate passive investors on different ways that they can create passive income for themselves to achieve financial freedom. And he's done several deals now across 4 different states on the general partner side. And as well as he has 2 young boys. So he's a father. He's also plays basketball, soccer, loves to vacation and travel, and an avid runner. So Harry, thank you so much for being on the show today. Welcome.
Thank you so much. A lot of things going on right now in my life.
Welcome, Harry.
Hey, Cody, how are you, man? I'm very honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So Harry, let's start off by, can you share a little bit more about yourself? And then also, what are some of the vehicles that you've utilized to help to achieve financial freedom for yourself, especially working full-time as a physician?
So you guys know, like I'm a full-time pulmonary and critical care doctor. My wife, she's also a physician. She's a family medicine doctor. We actually met back long time ago, like when we were in medical school back in our home country in Peru, in South America. We actually did like the full career together, full medical school, like the 7 years. So she took some time like to like me. And yeah, I mean, after some time, we decided like to come here to the US, like to look for a better education and opportunities and training. So yeah, it was a blessing for us that we were able like to come together. And I think I told you before, like during the almost 15 years that we have been here, like in the US, we didn't need to split. We actually trained in the same town and practiced medicine also in the same area. So we came about like 15 years ago for our training, initially in internal medicine and family medicine for her. We did 3 years. And then because of the nature of our training and our careers, we were moving every 2 or 3 years from different cities. So, I mean, I can tell you about like Pennsylvania, Virginia, South Texas, which is really, really hot. So it was like a big change. And then like finally 5 years ago, we moved to Dallas, Texas. And soon after we arrived, we really loved the area and we decided like to stay. So it has been like a great area to live and to be with our kids. And now like our kids love their school and like I'm friends. So yeah, we're very happy here.
So one of the questions is also, as you're working a full-time physician job and your wife are working several hours every single day actively. And so a lot of people like see it, and you guys are very high income earners. Both of you guys are physicians, so you're making like very good income. What do you do with that income afterwards? Do you just leave it sitting in the bank, or do you also, like when you're starting to look at for ways to implement and utilize your money so that it can work harder for you? What are some of the different ways that you've utilized it, and what are some of the things that you're focusing on now?
Yes. So one of the things that we have learned actually in the last couple of years, which is very important, is not necessarily how much money you make, it's also how much money you keep. If you think about like many high income earners, we pay a lot of taxes. Our tax bracket is very high. And many of us like actually tell the joke, like, so we work until April, May just to pay our taxes to Uncle Sam. And that's true. So these things are sometimes like a struggle or like a challenge for us. On top of that, many people who go through medical school or to go through college or university, they finish like, especially here in the US, like with a lot of debt, right? Like with loans and all of that. So you can imagine we have been in school like for many years, accumulating debt, and then we finish and we initially think like we're going to have like a great life, but still we pay a lot of taxes. Our schedules are sometimes very difficult. And still also, we still want to make a nice living. We want to buy a nice house for our family. We want to start our practice. So yeah, we face many challenges actually. So that's how we became to some degree investors. I mean, at some point, and I can tell you a little bit more like about like my background, right? Like from Peru, initially we come from a blue collar family, right? Like, so my mom and my dad, they didn't have the opportunity to go to college. So they worked very hard, like initially, like to take us to school, to put some food on the table. So we witnessed, like, again, like how hard they work, especially like my mom, like they got divorced like when I was very young. So we witnessed that. And she also became like at some point an investor, and she bought like a small hotel and a couple of apartment units. So we witnessed since early age the power of investing, the power of being an entrepreneur. So when I finished my training, to some degree, I was primed like for doing investments and being an entrepreneur, even though we love medicine. And I think like we're never going to leave medicine at the end. Like actually our plan is probably like to go down in our with our hours at some point. But then after our kids grow up and then we have more time, we may scale up like in medicine, not because we necessarily need it, but because we really enjoy it. So again, like, yeah, I mean, like it has been a nice, great journey. I mean, to know about, I mean, all these areas where you can also put your money to work, and especially like in high income individuals, where we sometimes just depend on one income stream, right? Like, and sometimes that can be like a little bit dangerous and scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like you mentioned the one income or the one income stream, right? And so we saw it kind of happen during COVID, right? A lot of people who are high income earners also, maybe that one income stream, they were unable to work, they were unable to go into their business or something like that. And so that now a stream of income has gone away. So for you, you looked for different opportunities, different paths to be able to subsidize it so that you're able to fall back on it in case anything happens. And like you said, it's really about how much you're keeping as well, not just how much you're making. Like, especially when you're in this type of field, type of industry, you're coming out with a lot of debt as well. It's not just making the high income and then you're living off of that and then it's done.
Yes, that's correct. And I can tell you, I mean, like from our field, from the physician side, there are two types of physicians, right? Like what happened during COVID, like at the beginning of the pandemic, there were some physicians who were doing like, let's say, like some procedures or outpatient that was not deemed to the front lines for treating COVID. So they were not working actually, like a big group of them. So you can imagine, I mean, all of them, they were not able to work. They were not able to provide for their family. Thankfully, most of them had some savings, so they were able to do that. On the other side, we had also the frontline workers for COVID, right? Like the primary care doctors, like my wife, or the critical care doctors like me, that I was like, so most of the time in the ICU. And for a year and a half, I was like the COVID doctor, like only in the ICU. So, which was good for our income. However, you know that we were very vulnerable because initially at the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't even have vaccine. We didn't have treatments or anything like that. So again, if anything would have happened to us, we were going to be in a very difficult position.
I just want to say thank you for being on the front line. And I talked to other doctors on the front line from the Canada side because I'm from Canada. So I just want to thank all the physicians out there who is on the front line, whatever the social media or the media set. You guys are great people, are holding down the front line to make sure it doesn't spread as much as we expected, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cody. I really appreciate that. And again, like there were some times where it was really stressful. And at some point we didn't know where to go really, actually, because we didn't have enough help or targeted medications for that. But yeah, I feel like more hopeful now. We're in a better spot.
And you said there was two part of the physician, one kind of, more specialist kind of thing, more procedure might not deem as essential. And then the other part of your, like yourself is more like deem as essential. So did that change perspective for all the physicians? Did they all of a sudden realize that, wow, I thought we're a very high paid job, but we're very vulnerable too? Did that change your perspective?
Yes, absolutely. I had already started investing in real estate by that time, but that was one more reason why I decided that, hey, we need to do this. This is very important, not just necessarily for money, but also for our future and for our kids. So yeah, yes, absolutely. And always like remember at some point, like just imagine like April 2020, when everyone was supposed to stay at home. So my wife and I were like the only ones who were going to work. I was driving like to Dallas downtown, and it was kind of like a ghost movie or something like that. I mean, I wouldn't say like anyone like in the streets, and I was like the only one driving there. But yeah, I mean, like it changes your perspective. I mean, at some point, and again, like working these long hours and inconvenient times, like again, like sometimes we need to work nights or weekends or during birthdays or holidays, or you're not able like to go to a presentation of your son or like a game from your son. So that changes a lot. Like, and initially you think like you can do it, right? Like, I mean, that you're still young and you feel like Superman and say, hey, I have all the power. I have like a mission in life to save lives and all of that. I mean, yeah, I mean, at some point it starts taking a toll on you.
How does your colleagues or fellow physician friends start doing after that? Did they take action? What kind of action did they take?
Yeah, so it's very hard because, as you can imagine, we go through training and through education a long, long time. And then, like, it's a very demanding education. And after we finish, we're facing all these challenges and struggles that we just mentioned before. So you finish and you focus just mainly on working on your career, and if you have some time on your family and all of that. So you can imagine, I mean, after all those years, you don't have that much really good financial education. So you think like about just working and saving, or working and saving and investing in what you actually know, right? Which is like stocks or mutual funds or things like that. But we are not really prime or educated in other alternative investments, like, for example, like real estate, like oil, like crypto, like other things out there.
I want to also get into, why you decided to focus on real estate versus like the stocks and bonds, and maybe a little bit about your experience in those other, mainstream asset classes as well. But I wanted to also ask, because we kind of talked about your family, your lifestyle while you were working, during that difficult time. And at that moment when you guys were looking and, struggling and, not having time for your children, for your wife, probably not seeing each other very often because of your different schedules, did you ever imagine what your life could look like if you had that choice, that opportunity to, have that financial freedom so you can choose what your lifestyle would look like?
Yes, that's very true. And actually, after a couple of years, we have been investing now in real estate for about 5 years. We're witnessing how that is impacting our lives. Just recently, actually, I can tell you guys that my wife is taking a break from clinical medicine now. So because we were able like to leverage all that real estate from the prior years, and now we're taking the benefit from it. So now she's able to spend more time at home. She's able to pick up like our kids from the school, go to the practices and go to games, not necessarily to feel bad about each like anymore, like that we are bad parents or anything like that. I mean, we're there now, we're more physically with them, and we enjoy like that a lot. So yeah, I mean, that changes a lot, like economically, but also your mindset and how you feel about life.
That's definitely very impactful. I think really a lot of physician friends, Aline knows that I teach stock and options as well. I have hundreds of students, and a handful of them, or more than that, are actually physicians. And they jokingly told me on the phone that they were just a high paying labor and they're very vulnerable too, right? So that's really why they want to learn like another way to generate extra income, right? And real estate is one, stock option could be one. And I know you talk about Bitcoin and all that. So I
Correct.
know you're mainly in real estate. So is there any other stories, if some of your physician friends are listening to this right now, what would you tell them? They're just at their early stage and they're starting, they went through that struggle and like, Harry, what should I do now? What would you tell them?
Yes, one of the things and important in life, I mean, like, and it's also with us. So again, we're heavy in real estate because that's a passion for us. And that's something that from our background, we're doing already for some or many years, actually. However, like there's one important thing, which is called diversification. And this is something that every expert in finance recommends to anyone, right? Like, so even if you're heavy in stocks, you need to diversify in other assets. I'm heavy in real estate. However, I still like carry my 401k. I carry other types of investments. I mean, actually, like you were just mentioning about like crypto and Bitcoin, like I have like a kind of funny story about like that. Well, my wife is not going to be happy with this, but
She's not listening, don't worry.
Lessons,
At least not in
lessons
a
that we
month.
can learn.
Yes. Well, she's happy now because at the end we get into that. So, I mean, like we came across cryptocurrency and Bitcoin like early, like I think 2011. It was like just like small kind of Friday afternoon report in CNBC, like the not so important ways to invest, like in general, how to diversify. So, I mean, like actually, I listened to that, I listened to the concept, and also you are trying to see what's coming next, right? So, to some degree, I understand like the technology, like at least like the basics of that, and I was really bought into that. So, but and I was trying to like, how can I buy Bitcoin or this kind of cryptos like out there? And around that time, there was not Coinbase or not like other like big platforms to buy that. So I needed to do like my research like about that. Like, and I go like into different forums and hacker forums and things like that. And I think I figured how to buy it. But of course, and Mary and all of that, like we share decisions and all these kind of things. So I brought the idea to my wife and she was not on board. So I said, like, no, you're not going to do that. And to be honest, like by that time, I mean, it was a lot of like speculation about that, right? Like, I mean, it was something not sure at all. People would think like it was like a scam actually, like around that time. So we decided not to invest. Then like time flies. And then in 2017, it has appreciated a lot. Like actually, like when I came initially to Bitcoin, I think it was around $120 or $140 initially, and it went up to 200. It went up to 100. I said like, oh my God. So in 2017, I came across that again, and my wife, listen, we're gonna go into this now. So I mean, I didn't pick like the Bitcoin because I think it was already $3,000 or $2,000 around the time. Of what kind of return of investment of 10 times like in 7 years, right? But we bought like Ethereum, which is like the second cryptocurrency overall. So yeah, and we follow like the pattern that most to some degree responsible investors do. So we hodl. We kept that with us. We don't try to time the market. So that's another recommendation that I would do. Don't try to time the market, never like crypto or stocks or real estate even. I mean, you're going to be in a very tough position. Yeah. So like, and until now, we have some Ethereum. I mean, it had appreciated very nicely even from 2017 to now. And we still try to keep that. We're going to keep that for another 5 to 10 years at least, hopefully.
People don't understand what kind of wisdom Harry is dropping here. And I tell a lot of people too is timing the market could be hard. Yes, so there's a lot of indicator you can look at, but in the long term, the entire, whether it's stocks, whether it's real estate, they all have their own drivers. If you understand what are the main drivers, and as long as the drivers are continue to go in the right direction, the price will follow all those drivers. So, in the short term, there's a lot of greed, a lot of fear, even in real estate too, because when government raises the interest rate or inflation, or even talking about stagnation and all that. So there's a lot of fear, but if there's a supply demand issue, if there's more job, more high paying job, then that's really what's the main driver for real estate, at least, right?
Yeah. And I don't consider myself that a smart person, so I don't try to time the markets. I just follow like the advice of like the other people who are smarter that need investing.
So, Harry, what are you most fired up about right now? What are you most excited about?
Yeah, I mean, like we're very excited about our future. Like as I was telling you before, we're hopeful about like how our life looks in the next couple of years when we achieve financial independence. We're on our way to that. Like I think we had a conversation before, and I told you we're not there yet, in part because we start fully investing in real estate only 4 to 5 years ago, but also in part because we are high income earners, right? Like the higher you make, the more money you make, the more difficult it is to replace your income. But again, like looking in the future, we see that coming, and we know that we're going to have choices and we're going to have opportunities in the future. So, and just to think about that and to see that you may be able to take more time off and spend it with your wife and your kids, I mean, it's amazing.
How do you visualize that? Once you hit, I know you're never going to get retired, but you said once you hit your financial freedom, you say you're going to work less. What does that day look like for you? Have you ever visualized that?
Yeah, I mean, as you're mentioning, I don't think I'm never going to retire just because I like to keep busy, do meaningful things for me, like real estate or medicine in this case. Perfect day for me would be just to wake up and spend the day with my wife and my kids with no really planned or anything like that, just to chill like the whole day together.
Very simple.
Yeah, very simple,
but very powerful.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
most of the best things in life are either not that expensive or are for free. So we need to take advantage of those, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, like we sometimes go, like we have like a very big park close where we live, and there's like a small creek like there. So we go there and spend like an hour there and just throw in like small stones, like in the creek, and we just have fun. And these are things are for free, right?
So, as you've been looking at this lifestyle down the road, down the future, what are the steps that you're doing to get there? Do you have to just focus on real estate and you're focusing on multifamily syndications? How does that kind of look like in terms of actual steps that you're taking to be able to drive that passive income so that it exceeds your active income?
Yeah, so we are continually working on our company, right? Like I mentioned before, we own Nima Equity that has been around for a year and a half. We are active and also passive investors, and the passive income definitely is there, like in real estate, especially like in multifamily, because you have economies of scale. So we love that. And like another thing that we found out when we started this journey in multifamily is that we also love to educate other people, educate physicians like us or other professionals. So we really enjoy that. I mean, like sometimes I spend a lot of hours like in doing this, and I don't feel it's like work or anything like that. I mean, I just enjoy doing it. So yeah, I mean, like we have a clear path for that. we are very appreciative of the journey that we're on right now. And again, like if anyone comes to us and is interested in real estate, I mean, I always like to give them options, right? Like they don't necessarily need to invest with us or do multifamily. I mean, there are so many options there in real estate. And as we mentioned, I mean, like not just only in real estate, like there's other assets to invest in. Like we were talking before with someone else that there's like oil, there's carbon capture, there's ATM machines. So different ways. I mean, like again, you need to do your research, you need to educate yourself, but the information is out there and the opportunities are out there too.
And I know you're highly focused in real estate. You have raised money in real estate. What are some of the questions when other physicians, there might be other partners, limited partners that would like to participate in it? What are the common questions you get? And what's the answer to those common questions?
Yes. So as what syndication means, there's some people who ask me that they haven't been exposed to syndications or this type of investments, right? Like, so, but yeah, I mean, like I usually try to explain to them, like now we have a YouTube channel where we try to explain all these things. So I refer them to that channel. We also have our blogs that try to bring a little bit more information, like for people who prefer to read instead of watching like small videos. We try to bring that and we try to give them options and choices. And I always tell them, like, for example, like in our case, like I'm telling them, like, I'm going to bring like a couple of projects a year, not also many of them, in part because we like to have certain type of lifestyle, but also because we're investing with you. We're investing our money with you. So we want to show you that we have skin in the game and we also are partnering up with you. But yes, I mean, it's interesting to see like different backgrounds, even from physicians, and the different questions they ask you, like from what is a syndication, or what are you doing in this, or how you get compensated. So yeah, it's interesting. And again, if there's something that we don't necessarily know fully, I mean, like we have always lead sponsors that can also address any other question for them.
From your experience, what are their biggest fear? And then once you settle that fear or handle that fear, and that's when they jump on board. What is that biggest fear that you see probably among physicians investing with you?
Yes. So the fear comes from uncertainty and things that you don't know and you're not familiar with. So that's one of the most important things. The second is like, of course, like as much as people get excited with excellent returns or good returns, they are more driven by the fear of losing money, right? Like, so that's one of the things that we talk with them and try to educate them about that our main goal, more than making great returns, amazing returns, sexy returns, is just to be good stewards of their money, right? Like, and to make the appropriate steps to do that.
I do want to ask another question though, because
Yeah.
we kind of talked a little bit about it a little bit earlier, but actionable steps for people who may have, income just sitting there, or they're looking to get started to create other streams of income for themselves. What are some of the steps that they can start taking now, actionable steps that they can start taking about now, so they can start that process of creating other streams of income for themselves?
So, and it happens to me, it happens with other professionals, busy professionals. And we always think that we don't have time, but I always say, like, when there's a will, there's a way to do things. Just look at me, for example, that I'm doing like the medicine, the single family houses, the multifamilies, and we go with our kids to, like, on the weekends to all their games together. So yeah, I mean, there's really, when there's a will, there's a way. So I mean, I always like start with that, ask them to think about the future and their families, and also to start educating themselves. So that's the first step, the first actionable step, right? Like, because again, like they need to be aware of these alternative ways of investing. And the second thing is, like, again, like education and knowledge is great, but without action, it doesn't take you anywhere. So that's the second important thing. And then, like, when they are able to invest, and when they're able to, for example, they come to my space, which is like the syndications in multifamily. I mean, I always tell them, it's great that you have taken the decision. I would love to talk to you. I want you also to get other options, right? Like, because it's important to have options in life. And also, if you need, I can give you referrals about like people who have worked with me before, so you feel more comfortable in doing this with me.
Thank you for that, Harry.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Great question. Great question. Well,
lightning round.
Mm-hmm.
We really want to chat more. We have so many questions even on my side, but we're going to respect your time as well. So we're going to go into our lightning round and, kind of keep you on your toe a little bit. So Eileen, you want to start the first question?
All right, Harry. Okay. So the first one we have is, if you became a billionaire tomorrow, what would your day look like?
probably will look exactly the same as it looks now. We may take more vacations, right? Like a week or 2 week vacations long every 3 months or so. But in general, we really like what we do, right? Like I still enjoy medicine a lot. Now that I have peace of mind on the economic side, I learned to enjoy that more. Like I love to go to the hospital and work with my colleagues and work in the ICU. That's very fulfilling. I enjoy like talking with investors, going with my kids to their games. Sometimes it gets a little bit busy, but I mean, like as long again as you're enjoying it, it's a great day.
Love it. So, Harry, I know you're way past this, but imagine today you have to start all over with all the knowledge you have, with $500,000 handed to you.
Mhm.
What would you do starting over again right now, today, 2022?
With some money in my pocket, I would probably like invest that and continue working hard and like investing earlier in real estate, which is like my field of expertise now, right? So, but again, like there's no only real estate. I mean, we love real estate because of all the advantages it has. But again, there's other ways to invest too and to think about the future. But yeah, I mean, that's something important in life to have not necessarily the mindset of the consumer, but to have the mindset of the investor, right? Like, so that's going to give you great dividends in the future.
Yeah, people don't understand enough is that earning income is great, only get you rich, but only through investing you will get wealthy, right?
Yes.
I think that's misunderstanding or a myth for a lot of people.
And so, if you were a podcast host, Harry, and you could interview anybody in the world, who would you interview?
Ah, that's a hard one. Yeah, I mean, that may be it in our plans, like maybe by the end of the year, hopefully. I'm not sure. I mean, like I think I owe that much to my mom. I would love to take her with me and to show other people where I'm coming from, right? Like, and my roots, right? Like, so she speaks Spanish, so it would need to be like a Spanish podcast, like a podcast in Spanish. But yeah, I mean, I would probably have her like in one of my podcasts.
Or at least you could be if it wasn't an English speaking one, you could be the translator.
Yeah, yeah, right.
You have
I
her
could do
on and
that.
you be the translator. And then I think like this is so powerful because I never heard this answer before. And I never imagined that would be the question. But I think all of our parents, especially coming from immigrant family, they just did so much for us. They sacrificed so much for us.
Yes.
And a lot of time we take their old thinking for granted. But that's what it took them to get us where we are now. Yes, now we're growing a lot faster. We have a different mindset, but we just a lot of time we took it for granted. So I just want to, put that out there. And then thanks for sharing that with our
That's very
audience.
powerful. Thank you. Thank you.
You're in the medical space, so we're definitely gonna ask you this question. Someone like yourself or any other physicians, when you guys think about giving back to the community, is there any charities or any things that you guys are imagining doing or already planning on doing?
That's important. That's a very important aspect of when someone grows and keeps growing. I believe that's the final step, because like one is like yourself, and at some point you're thinking what else is in life, right? Like, so the giving back, like we're in part doing that, sharing our information and what we know, like our knowledge with other physicians and also like professionals. But for example, in terms of physicians, I mean, I have a good friend who's a surgeon who goes every year back to Peru, to my home country, and he does surgeries like for free for all the people who cannot afford that. We have been trying to connect and like time our travel together to Peru, and that's something very, very important. As much as I would love also to help here in the US, I think like one point where I would start first would be my home country in Peru.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, Harry, thank you so much for being on this show. I mean, we really love where you're coming from, how you've pivoted a little bit about your thinking and looking a little bit further down the line in case of anything is happening. You're wanting to take care of your family. You have this lifestyle that you dream of, that you're working towards right now, building it up. Your wife is already taking steps right now by taking some time off, spending more time with your family. And so we just really appreciate your time today. And so thank you so much.
Yeah, and also if more of our audience would like to know more about you or find you, how can they find you on that?
Yeah, so you can always look up to me like on Facebook. But I mean, if you're looking to invest actually in real estate, we have our website, which is nimaequity.com. Nima is the N as in Nancy, IMA, equity.com. And we also have our YouTube channel for that. But again, like we are in this path again, like of freedom and education that we love to share with other people our journey.
And all the links will be put in the show notes. So if you're driving, don't have to scramble to
Scramble.
take notes.
We'll make it easy for you.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
Again,
thank
thanks
you
for
so much,
having.
Ken.
Thanks for coming on to our show. Harry, it's a pleasure. We're probably going to have you come back on once you think you reached that fire, whatever that is for
Yes.
you. If you're just figure you come into the day and you're chilling with your wife and kids and have nothing to do and thought about us, maybe just give us a call. We're going to interview you on that day then.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Like I really enjoyed do this show and the conversation, and I'm looking forward to come next time.
All right.
All the links mentioned in this episode are included in the show notes. And if you love this episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple iTunes. The link is also included in the show notes. And we would really appreciate your help in spreading the word to more high income earners on how they too can maximize both their time and money.
Also, if you still haven't joined our High Income Earners Facebook group, you are missing out on High Income Earners community where we help each other reach our own version of FIRE.